Good Monday morning at 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And good morning to Miller here.
Morning.
And good morning to our friends also over in Bozeman and Butte. We're just a one-day special for you. You'll get your regular folks back tomorrow.
All right, yeah. Be afraid. Be very afraid this morning, yeah. So glad to have you all along. And, well, you know, we had some storms roll through yesterday.
Yes.
Hopefully it didn't put a damper on any 4th of July plans that anyone had, maybe with the fireworks that were around the state. It's a nice start this morning. Look at this wonderful time lapse courtesy of the Stockman Bank Weather Cam. You can see some clouds out there bubbling up, and they will continue to do so as we go along today. And here in Billings, a slight chance of rain, but off to our east of Miles City and areas south, we actually could see some severe weather. Tell you about that coming up here in just a bit. 66 right now at the airport, humidity at 63%, winds out the south at about 8 miles an hour. We'll crunch some numbers quickly. Our high yesterday of 95, 11 degrees above average. Our overnight low got down to 67, a good 10 degrees above average. By the way, Livingston, you tied a record yesterday morning with a low of 62. That was warmer than normal, and tied a record of 62 back in 1988. We could see some more of that possibly this week as we're going to get hotter later, at least in the middle of the week. Top gusts yesterday of 40 miles an hour as we did have some storms roll through. No really much, I'd say maybe a trace amount of rain here in Billings, so we're pacing behind for the month already, and for the year well over 3.5 inches in the whole. Again, a special hello to Bozeman and Butte watching this morning, where we're sitting at 62 at Bozeman, winds out the southwest at 5, and we've got Butte sitting at 57, and the winds currently are calm. We'll go with a high today of 85 here in Billings, right on target where we should be. And then we're going to get hotter as we get into the rest of the week. So like Victoria said earlier, if you want to take a picnic, it is picnic month. You might want to find a shady spot because it's going to get hot out there again.
And I was just reading facts about picnics. I always like to find out how, traditions began. So originally a picnic was a fashionable social event to which each guest contributed some food. See, my fancy picnicking, I've made a requirement for my family. I'm just bringing back the original tradition.
Oh, so you do like
yes.
fancy food?
Well, we do. I do like I like doing the cheese and the crackers and sausage
sure.
and,
Okay.
and all that. I mean, it's
yeah.
nothing extravagant, but it's no picnic when we go on a picnic.
No picnic on her picnic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I have high standards. Miller, I better get to the news.
Okay.
Thanks. Our top story this Monday morning, the search and rescue effort has resumed at the site of a Florida condo building that collapsed 11 days ago. Last night, the part of the building that was still standing was demolished. To date, 24 people have been confirmed dead, while 121 others remain unaccounted for. CBS's Tina Kraus has the latest.
The partial collapse of the Champlain Tower South condo in Florida is now a complete collapse. Explosives were detonated inside the still standing portion of the building at about 10:30 last night. The 12-story structure tumbled to the ground in a matter of seconds.
Honestly, this precise moment, I feel relief. I feel relief because this building was unstable. The building was hampering our search efforts.
Search and rescue crews resumed work just a few hours after the detonation. The demolition was not expected to happen for several weeks, but it was deemed necessary when engineers determined the structure had shifted and could fall. The approach of Tropical Storm Elsa added urgency to the decision.
The hurricane is going to turn out to have probably been a blessing in disguise because there's an area of that mound which we were not able to work in safely, and this demolition is going to open up wide the whole area.
Officials said removing the threat of a collapse would give rescue crews access to more of the site.
The intention is to bring the building down in a westward direction so that the debris pile that exists with victims in it is not affected.
A group of residents had hoped the demolition would be delayed so they could retrieve pets from their apartments. One even sought a court order to allow her to enter the building. The judge said he sympathized with her plight, but would not second-guess the experts who said the tower was unsafe. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
15 Florida counties are under a state of emergency ahead of the arrival of what is now Tropical Storm Elsa. Its outer bands could reach the Keys later today. Now we go to Laurel, where last night's 4th of July celebration ended in tragedy when one man lost his life and a woman was injured in an ATV crash. It happened just before 9 o'clock in the alley between 12th and 13th Avenues along the 1100 block. The man was flown to a Billings hospital by helicopter and later died. The woman was taken to Billings by ambulance, but her injuries are described as non-life-threatening. According to the Laurel Police Department, alcohol and speed were factors in the crash. Laurel police and fire officials always urge safe celebrations on the Independence Day holiday. In a county where fireworks were banned, the city attracted visitors and residents with its festivities throughout the day. People packed the streets for the annual parade before taking in the city's famous fireworks show. The pandemic put some of Laurel's events on hold last year, and parade goers were thrilled to be back.
Great parade this year. Yep, it was really nice to be out with family and everybody vaccinated and having a good time.
This year's parade included floats from more than 50 different groups. And as Americans around the nation celebrated the 4th of July, President Joe Biden spoke from the White House last night. The president said this year's Independence Day is a special celebration as the country emerges from the darkness and isolation of the pandemic. The first family later enjoyed the fireworks display, marking the country's 245th birthday. Over the past few months, officials in Canada have discovered more than 1,000 unmarked graves with the bodies of Native American children who attended residential schools. Fresh outrage over the discoveries has sparked vigils, marches, and protests in Canada over the country's treatment of Indigenous people. Unfortunately, in the United States, there is a mirrored history with estimates of more than 350 residential schools operated nationwide. MTN's Geneva Zoltek spoke with Montanans who have a connection to one school, and they're demanding answers.
Located on the Flathead Reservation, St. Ignatius is a small Montana town, but it shares a history with much of the United States and Canada. Throughout the late 19th and 20th centuries, Native American children attended boarding schools to assimilate them into Western culture. They were mostly led by religious institutions.
My late father and my late mother both attended reservation boarding schools, the Ursuline school system here on the Flathead Indian Reservation.
Matt runs a community Facebook page for Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribal members and has tapped into some of the responses of the news coming from Canada.
Well, what I've noticed recently is there's a lot of fresh rage and anger, justifiably. You know, those of us that have had parents and grandparents and even great-grandparents that have attended the boarding school system, we've heard stories all our lives. And, you know, some are not as bad as others, and some of the stories are the stories that you almost whisper.
Matt told MTN News there are questions about children and babies that may have never returned from their time at the Ursuline Institution, a school documented for its physical and sexual abuse. But like whispered stories, the history of the residential schools in America and legacy of trauma it left behind on Native communities is often faint. A vigil Saturday was held to honor survivors of boarding schools and remember lost children. And healing comes with seeking answers.
I would love if we had our own investigation here, you know, apply pressure to the government to do something about it, because they're definitely here too. It's not just Canada.
Dozens gathered with flowers, stuffed teddy bears, and candles to mourn for the children that never came home. Trahan Sorrell, a descendant of a residential school survivor, said the issue hits home on multiple levels, but especially as a mother.
You know, I can comfort her and I can hold her and let her know that everything's going to be okay, but all of the babies and children at the burn schools didn't have that. They didn't have anybody to comfort them.
And for those unaffected by the recent discoveries, organizers stressed sensitivity.
That this is still like a very close and painful subject for people that are just alive today. So it's not a really old issue. It's a very recent, current issue.
Organizers at the vigil emphasized the need to heal from the past and the desire for acknowledgement from both the government and religious institutions about what happened at residential boarding schools. In St. Ignatius, Geneva Zoltek, MTN News.
Thank you so much, Geneva. Also making headlines this morning, Canada is slowly loosening its tight travel restrictions. Starting today, Canadians and permanent residents who are fully vaccinated can skip the 14-day quarantine when returning to the country. Travel restrictions between the U.S. and Canada that banned all leisure travel is scheduled to expire later this month. Pope Francis will spend a couple more days in the hospital after undergoing intestinal surgery. The Vatican issued a statement saying the Pope was doing well after the procedure. A spokesperson for the 84-year-old Pope says the surgery was done to treat a narrowing of the large intestine. The surgery followed a busy morning for Pope Francis. He made his traditional Sunday appearance to those in St. Peter's Square and announced plans to visit Hungary and Slovakia in September. Today, the man behind Amazon will step down. Jeff Bezos will hand over control to Amazon Web Services chief Andy Jassy. Bezos made today his last with the company because it is the 27th anniversary of the launch of Amazon's online bookstore. Bezos leaves Amazon as the world's richest person. Forbes estimates his fortune at $202 billion. His net worth was about $6 billion when he first appeared on Forbes' list of richest Americans in 1998.